تحية نكاح مبارك.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're listening to Unity FM 93.5. Okay, so let's get straight into the show. Sorry if I'm out of breath. I was a little bit rushed for time, but yeah, made it. Basically, we're going to look at how to discipline children. Now, at first I thought, let's maybe go straight in there and give you advice on how to do it. But I find that there are lots of different styles. I've met many parents over the time of my work as an early years practitioner, and you get some styles that work, some styles that don't. But today I'd really like to open up the lines from the get-go. If you want to call in and tell us, how do you discipline your children? Do you use the good old-fashioned approach, which we're told now we can't do as parents? Do you beat your children, some of them say, or smack your children, or do you put them on the naughty step? Do you give them time out? Do you send them to their room? Do you ban them from certain activities? What works for you? Call in to the station, please do. Give us your responses and what's working maybe. 0121 772 8892. Now, some people, their parents actually did maybe put their hands on them and beat them, as the terminology is. And I had someone say to me today that, it didn't do me any harm. So, also, do you feel the same? Now, I'm just going to play a short clip just to get the show started. And it's just really a comical sense of the impressions of children and discipline. So we'll play it and then we'll discuss it afterwards. So yeah.
Somebody gonna get hurt real bad. That was my dad's threat right before he beat me every single time. Oi, Russell. Somebody gonna get hurt real bad. I hated that threat. You know why? Because he'd always say somebody. He'd never tell you it was you. I mean, you knew it was you. But he'd give you this hope. Oi, Russell. Somebody gonna get hurt real bad. Somebody. I'm not gonna say who. Oh, I think you might know him very well. I'm in the back praying. I hope it's my brother, man. Please. I saw that little brat Ryan at school a few days later. I was like, yo, your little plan almost got me killed. He goes, oh, sorry, dude. I forgot to tell you the other part. If he's still going to hit you, threaten to phone Children's Aid. Why? Because if you phone Children's Aid, they'll come and take your dad away, and he'll get in trouble. You won't even have to call. Just pretend. It'll scare the crap out of him. You're 10 years old, you figure out how to scare the crap out of your dad? That's like finding kryptonite. I thought I'd try it. I was about to get my next beating. I stopped my dad. I go, don't do it! I'll phone Children's Aid. You ever had your parents call your bluff? You'll do what? I'll phone Children's Aid. Is that right? Oh. Well, let me get you the phone, tough guy. What are you doing? If I phone Children's Aid, you'll get in trouble. I might get into a little bit of trouble. But I know that it's going to take them 23 minutes to get here. In that time, somebody gonna get hurt real bad.
Okay, so Yeah, that was a comedian. He's from Canada. And it was just a short clip about, obviously, some of the impressions from an Asian background of how we got raised. Now, all fun and joke aside, obviously, there are common cultural differences in how we get raised. And it often seems to be something that is open to discussion. So, there was another clip that I wanted to play, really, that just reflected a more serious tone, which I'll play in a bit. But what I wanted to discuss there is that when children are in the playground, there's always this discussion of how children get disciplined, and I think there are big cultural differences. As Muslims, we are going to get the Islamic perspective on how we do treat our children, because it's a reality that as parents today, even if we did get treated like that, we can't treat our children in that way, because there are consequences according to the law. So where the little child was advising this man to call Children's Aid, we know that children can call, Childline or other authorities when things are not going well for them. So, obviously there is the fact that we are integrating our children with other cultures when they're in the playground and stuff. And there's a seriousness to the consequences that we can have as parents in terms of how we're dealing with our children. So, I wanted to go into that. But like I said, if you want to comment on this subject, how do you discipline your children? It's 0121 772 8892. Now, on another note, like I said, there was another clip that I wanted to play. And this is the professional perspective of what maybe we can do and how we should view disciplining our children. So have a listen and we'll discuss it afterwards.
One of the hardest jobs parents have is finding effective and positive ways to discipline their children. In the past, spanking and yelling were considered acceptable techniques, but this has become a very sensitive issue with parents, and we really need to find some alternatives.
With Isabel, I think I have learned more than I ever thought I would how there's not one cookie-cutter way to discipline all children. I think I knew that beforehand, but I have a much greater appreciation for that now.
For Mary Beth, redirecting her child's attention is the way to go.
I try to get her to come up with ideas or alternatives to deal with what's going on. I think it helps her to stop and refocus herself, get herself thinking on a different track.
Parents are truly the role models for their children. It's important to show them the right way to act and react.
Anytime we do anything with our children, we are suggesting to them a way that they could behave themselves.
Opposites are fun to find. First,
so when we praise them, we're teaching them how to praise others.
Yeah, good job, Isabel.
When we listen to them, we're teaching them how to listen to others. When we meet their needs, we're teaching them how to meet other people's needs. When we spank them, we're teaching them how to be aggressive.
Okay, so yes, sorry about that. Basically, obviously the woman was discussing the pros and the cons. Some parents do choose to have a different approach, and that being redirecting the children's attention. Now, we should be having later on the show Abdul Wahid calling in, inshallah, from ICT. And of course, we're going to go through the Islamic perspective. So going through very basically, I wanted to discuss some of the techniques that have been discussed through over time. So the famous naughty step, does it work, and what is the theory behind it? Well, obviously, the child has to have consequences. And what I often see is parents not following through these consequences. And as a result, they're spoiling their children. So the naughty step acts as a consequence for the child. If you're not doing that, then obviously you're exercising the fact that they can get away with this behaviour. I often see parents not following it through, or changing the consistency of it and exhausting it. So, for example, if they do something, they're confusing the signals. Okay, you're going to have to go on the naughty step for this. and they over exhaust it. So I think what you have to do as a parent is establish all of the rewards and the punishments in the early stages. And like I said, it's about getting to know your child. At different ages, it's going to be different things. So in the early years, we're talking maybe 2 years, 3 years, you're exercising language development. As parents, we have to become familiar with our facial expressions and the way that we use our tones. I often see parents saying to their children, don't do that, in a really friendly tone. And, there's just no distinction for the child there. And especially when it comes to special needs, if the child is displaying special needs at this point, then, having clarity with your facial expressions and your tones really helps set the boundaries for the child. So we have to do that in that sense. And then obviously identifying the rewards and the punishments. For a child, I've been told in the early stages, parents often don't know how to say no to their children, or it's almost like they're scared to say the word no. A lot of children are getting spoilt with all of these new gadgets, and they don't know how to deal with not getting what they want. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to address was the time out zone. I've discussed it over the last few weeks quite a lot, where I've said that children often don't know how to be still. Getting raised, I was often told to just sit down when we went to go and visit people, and you just had to learn to sit there and do nothing. You didn't have a DS in your hand or anything like that. And I think a big concern at the moment is the fact that children are just being let loose to do as they choose. So there is no discipline there. So when we're talking about discipline, we have to realise that it's not about, beating your children or whatever. Disciplining is about conditioning a response out of your child. So if we had a weight, for example, and we told a child, go and pick that up, and it's very difficult for them, then what we have to do is we have to condition them towards that. So, once you start that response, you have to keep consistency with it and then keep at it. And eventually that child is going to get to grasps with time out and learning to be still. Once again, if you've got any views on this, it's 0121 772 8892. Now, I've often done work in schools and worked with special needs children, and it's amazing how many staff members are working with children who have special needs in schools. Now, when I say special needs, I mean children maybe who have behavioural problems, emotional problems, and diagnoses such as autism, etc. They have a team of maybe 4 to 5 people, the educational psychologist, a family support worker, a SENCO, and these group meetings come together, and what the discussion is often, and people are welcome to differ if they want to, is the fact that there's no consistency in terms of what gets home. So you have the parent that wants to change, but then they continue doing what they want to, and then you've got the parent who just totally outright spoils the child, and the school ends up having to deal with the consequences of that. So I think as the parent who really wants to work with the school, in looking at how to control your child's behaviour, you have to be ready to do stuff. I think there were quite a large number of parents that have become very lazy parents. They expect their children to perform academically. They expect their children to have great manners, but in reality, once their backs are turned, or even in front of them, they have no control. And we do have to get hold of these, take control of this situation in the early stages. So I've got a quote from Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, who mentioned in Siyar al-Alamin Nubala, in his biography, that I heard Abu Mushri say, strictness with a child at an early age will bring about an increase in his intellect in later life. So what I want parents to begin to get the idea of is that disciplining a child is something that you have to instill in the early ages. You can't just come in and expect your child to behave in a certain way and think that they're going to do that. No, it's going to take a lot of conditioning and consistency in doing so. So, and the second quote that I wanted to look at was that Ibrahim ibn Ishaq al-Harbi said, keep your children away from evil companions before it happens that you have immersed them in and dyed them with affliction. And he said the beginning of the corruption of the children comes about from one another. So, another aspect that I want people to consider is the fact that, if you have an abundance of something, then it clearly is going to start influencing your child. Hence, if you, put your children in front of games that have a lot of violence in them, or they're surrounded by a lot of friends who maybe are very unruly, etc., then, pretty much you're contending with another factor that is going to, interfere in how you raise your children, And from the get-go of the show, I've tried to develop an understanding to listeners that you are contending with not only your own ability to raise your children, but with the fact that other people are making it their business to know your children, so that they can market them in a sense of, when maybe the child is out with you, they're like, Mum, can I have this? Or, Dad, can I have that? And hence how you respond, is up to you. We often fall into a culture where I've often seen parents letting their children play on things maybe that have got a certificate rating out of there, or just, like I says, going back to being still. So, going back to the main points, because I don't want to drift away. I'm just trying to put out there the very basic disciplines that seem to be out there and quite popular. And those are the naughty step, which I said, acts as, that place and, a consequence of a bad action or something that you didn't want to see from your child. But as I said, some parents may overexhaust this and not use this as effectively as they should. And the second thing is time out. Does your child know how to be still? Does your child enjoy the good old-fashioned things like reading, or maybe doing activities, such as going out to the park? And, I think last week we had Nick Mohammed on, who was talking about outdoor activities, and getting, children out and about. And I think it's really important, because a lot of children staying indoors, it's not healthy, and they need to know how to engage with other people. You want to get your comments in on this, then dial into the studio. It's 0121 772 8892, and please give us some feedback. So another aspect that I wanted to look at then is the reward and punishments. Knowing your child is knowing how they spend their time and how they value things. So, do they enjoy watching TV? Do they enjoy playing with their friends? Do they enjoy, eating particular food, drinking particular things? Are they working towards buying something, a toy maybe, and maybe, going to a place? I think these are things that are rewards, and you have to give clear and achievable rewards for yourself as a parent, because you don't want to outstretch yourself, and be obviously giving them rewards that are going to mean you're going to go broke. Like, yes, if you behave, I'm going to buy you that 3D DS or that Lego and stuff, but know your child and set them routines, and start getting out of them what you want to, and like I says, we have to stop being lazy parents. A good friend of mine who definitely did remind me of that, and said, the fact that there are lazy parents out there. You have to be aware of who's giving your children information and how they're affecting your children, because if you don't, as a result, it is gonna affect or make things harder on yourself, and if you can do this in the early stages, then it's not going to be something that you're going to have to deal with later on. Because what I often find I see is parents will come and be like, oh, I don't know what to do, I've been doing this with them. Like, some parents maybe do beat their children, which I wouldn't advocate, and we will discuss that later on in the show, but they'll be like, I don't know what to do. And some parents, when we go back to Quran and Sunnah, which we'll discuss later inshallah, that there is a way of disciplining your children, and we really have to understand that if you want the best out of your children, then you have to you have to work towards doing that. Spend some time with them, and you will get that out of them. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so moving on to the next point. What we're going to base the next half of the show on, for the second half, is advice to a son. There's a chapter in the Quran, chapter 31, where Luqman alayhi salam gives advice to his son, and we're going to go through them step by step, and obviously look at some of the things. I've focused on saying that we have to instill in our children what we want to get out of them. If we do that, then obviously it's going to make our situation a lot easier. Okay, we've got an advert break coming up soon, but I'm just going to play a quick nasheed, and I'll speak to you afterwards, inshallah.
Every time you feel like you cannot go on, you feel so lost and that you're so alone. All you see is night and darkness all around. You feel so helpless, you can't see which way to go. Don't despair and never lose hope, 'cause Allah is always by your side. Inshallah, 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 you'll find your way. Inshallah, 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 you'll find your way. Every time you commit one more mistake, you feel you can't repent and that it's way too late. You're so confused, wrong decisions you have made haunt your mind and your heart is full of shame. But don't despair and never lose hope, 'cause Allah is always by your side. Inshallah, 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 you'll find your way. Inshallah, 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 you'll find your way. Turn to Allah, He's never far away. Put your trust in Him, raise your hands and pray. Ooh, ya Allah, guide my steps, don't let me go astray. You're the only one who can show me the way. Show me the way.
You are listening to Unity FM, 93.5 FM. A wonderful community-run radio station. And that is an offer that you can't refuse.
Are you having immigration problems? Would you like to bring a family member to the UK? Then Stratford Solicitors can help you. We specialise in immigration and asylum and aim to provide a fast and effective service, ensuring your matters are dealt with efficiently. We also deal with family matters, including marriage difficulties and children's contact applications, and provide a mediation service to help ease your pain. For a free consultation, call 0121 753 2539 or visit Stratford Solicitors, the number 4, YOU.co.uk. Stratford Solicitors, fighting for justice for you.
Looking for the perfect venue for your wedding, special occasion or conference? Then look no further. Mayfair Conference and Banqueting Suite, Birmingham's finest venue. Bespoke packages for your individual needs with parking facilities for up to 500 vehicles, 2 segregated halls and in-house halal catering services. Let the Mayfair team make your special day a memorable one. Don't miss our grand opening offers. We also offer complete wedding services. Check out our website mayfairsuite.co.uk for full details. Call us now on 0121 5533 675 or visit us at the Mayfair Suite, Park Lane, Birmingham, B21 8LE, near the West Brom football ground.
Did you know Al Hijra Masjid are having a family fun day? Mummy, can we go, please? The last one's so much fun. But when and where is it?
It's on 15th of September from 1 till 6 p.m. and it's at Al Hijra Community Hall, 79 Hopmore Road, Small Heath.
What's going to happen there?
Well, there's going to be lots of stalls, mehndi, manicure, kids' activities, bouncy castle and lots of games for you to play and, of course, lots of food. And all the money raised will go towards the Al Hijra Masjid.
We want to go.
Okay, then let's start saving money so we can donate it to the masjid when we go.
Yeah!
Palestine, a nation under siege. Help Interpal with the Gaza Crisis Appeal and please donate generously. Our aim is to support the needy Palestinians in the West Bank, Gaza, Jordan and Lebanon. Come and visit our new office and charity shop, which is now open at 137 to 139 Stratford Road, Sparkbrook. The shop offers a wide range of Palestinian products, including dates, olive oil, Islamic art frames, hijabs, scarves and so much more. Buy gifts for your families and help support Interpal. Please call 0121 771 2762 or go to interpal.org. Interpal, helping Palestinians in need.
Shabir Nawab & Co. Accountants, celebrating 21 years of success in the accountancy profession. Our services include accounts, auditing, self-assessment, payroll, VAT, limited company formations and dealing with tax and VAT investigations. We specialize in healthcare and welcome professionals in the consultancy profession. Why not join us in our success? Visit our website at shabirnawab.co.uk for more details or call 0121 456 1777. That's 456 1777. Shabir Nawab & Co. Accountants for a complete accountancy solution.
Are you planning for Hajj or Umrah? Well, think no more. Al Makawi Travel offers Hajj and Umrah services and worldwide air tickets. We are originally from Makkah and we only promise what we can deliver. We also offer halal investment in Makkah and Medina. Al Makawi Travel is IATA accredited, ATOL protected and approved by the Saudi authority. We are based in Birmingham at 72 Hobmore Road, Small Heath, B10 9BU, opposite Al Hijra Mosque and next to Al Hijra Library. For more details, please call 0121 7 0753 0378 or visit hajjandumrahtravel.com.
Join me, JD, for the morning show with lots of interesting stories, encounters and interviews every Wednesday morning at 7:30am, repeated Friday at 7:30am, only on Unity FM 93.5.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. Okay, so yeah, the topic of how do you discipline your children. Earlier on in the show, I played a couple of clips that was looking at the contrast that parents can often have in disciplining their children. Some, you know, as we use the terminology, beat them, but we would say smack them. And the consequence of that today, in today's climate, is it is not permissible, you know, for us to do that because obviously, you know, social services could get involved, etc. There was a story that I wanted to relay that someone told me. Their daughter got into a situation where she'd been drinking alcohol. She ended up putting a brick through a window and she beat up somebody. She came home and the father decided to discipline her by smacking her. She then decided to call the authorities, the police, and he got arrested. You know, when he got arrested, the debate came up and he said, you know, my child has clearly done something that is, you know, incorrect. She's been drinking, you know, she's broken someone's window, she's hurt somebody, and you want to arrest me for trying to control my child and trying to discipline her? You know, am I really in the wrong for trying to, you know, be in control in that sense? You know, so big question, you know, what are the controls? Is it a case of, you know, this person necessarily didn't know how? You know, what are the questions? Many things that we have to consider. So, and the second part being that some parents obviously choose to do the whole, I'm going to send you to the room. Okay, I think we've got a call on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, sorry, who's that?
It's Abdul Wahid.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. Right, I was waiting for your call earlier, but okay. So, yeah, did you manage to catch anything?
No, I was in a meeting. It went over. But,
okay, no problem. Okay, so basically the topic is disciplining children.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there's a big contrast. I played a clip earlier where it was a comical sketch, really, where someone was saying, you know, that his dad would beat him, in contrast to him getting the advice of his friend at school who would say to his dad, if you touch me, then I'll call the police. And so it was a bit of a comical sketch. And, you know, fun and joke aside, it is quite a serious matter. Because if we're not in control of our children, it can have consequences for us, obviously, in the long run, as parents and for the children. So, as always, I like to get the Islamic perspective on it. So, where do we stand as Muslim parents when it comes to disciplining our children?
Bismillah. Without a doubt, we have a responsibility to raise and educate and nurture our children in a good way.
If you could speak up a bit, it's quite
yeah, I was saying, without a doubt, we have a responsibility to raise and nurture our children in a good way, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them to us as a trust, and we have them, for example, while they're young, and it's an obligation upon us as parents to show them affection and to show them love, to be loving towards them. That's obviously the prime and the fundamental relationship, is to show them affection and love. However, there are times, obviously, when there's going to be a need for discipline. And an example of that is what the Messenger of Allah mentions in the Hadith, regards to educating and teaching the children how to pray. Where he said, order them to pray, or begin ordering them and telling them to pray when they are 7 years old. And when they reach the age of 10, then if they're not doing it, then smack them as a form of discipline them, to show them that this is something which is remember that you're not praying. And what's important to highlight in this hadith is the age of 7, there's the command, and then there's 3 holy years of telling them to pray at the time that they should be praying, before there's any type of smacking and there's being smacked at the age of 10. Now, one of the benefits of that is that it highlights that children at a certain age, they're unable to understand exactly and fully consequences and stuff like that of not doing certain actions, because their brain hasn't developed fully. So at certain ages, there's not much benefit in trying to discipline them through smacking, even in issues in some things.
Could I just say at this point, I understand that Arabic is a very complex language in terms of, you know, the context that one word can have, and that word smacking, we do need to define it, don't we? In terms of, you know, you can't go in there and physically be, you know, smacking your children to the point where you're marking them, you know, and I think it's very important that parents understand that even when it comes to that, we have to, you know, there's hikmah involved, there's wisdom involved in how we discipline them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and also, like you were saying, before that, it's about training them, isn't it? It's not so much about getting physically involved and having consequences. So, you know, you're instilling in them. So what I was saying in the show earlier is that if you want to get something out of your children, what you have to do is start conditioning them and conditioning a response out of them. You can't just immediately expect them to respond in a certain way if you haven't prepared them or nurtured them on that.
Yeah.
So, do you get advice? Do you often get that as an issue with the work that you do at the masjid at all when it comes to children? Because I think you're part of the madrasa there, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what needs to be one of the issues, obviously, is that, you know, alhamdulillah, Muslims, they get married young, and then they, for example, in the case of the mothers decide for children, and there's sometimes a struggle in regards to, you know, raising the children and how to raise them in a good way. That's always the question: what's the best way to raise my children? And I mean, like I said, one of the things is we look at the Prophet Muhammad as a role model. And as an example, you see with children, he was always very affectionate and very loving towards them. And you won't find an example, even when he was disciplining them, of him being overly angry or something like this. An example is, for example, when he gave advice to one, they were sitting down having a meal, and there's a child with them, and his hand was going everywhere on the plate. So instead of saying, okay, get up, go and sit over there, go and eat somewhere else, he said, he educated him with a firm voice, said, Ya ghulam, oh boy, say Bismillah before you eat with your right hand and eat what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So it was clear and it was concise. And it was with a voice which was a serious voice, obviously. And then that was it. It wasn't going on and continuing, and do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, again, if we look, for example, as much as possible to the life of the Prophet Muhammad as a role model, then we'll find enough examples of his interaction and engaging with children, showing them affection, showing them, showing concern for them, listening to them even, and stuff like that. And I think that's also very important when it comes to disciplining children, is that you're listening to them and they're understanding what you're saying, so that when you speak back to them, they're listening to you as well and understanding. Because we have to be role models. There's no point, for example, telling a child not to do something that you're doing yourself, and we're not role models in what we're saying. So there's a lot of ways of discipline that doesn't necessitate smacking or hitting or beating or whatever word is used in whatever culture it's used in. They all come to the same thing. Obviously, beating, when someone might say, "Oh, you know, I was brought up, I got a good, my mum wasn't trying to beat me." That word, it means hit me or it means smack me. Depends on what culture it's being used. It doesn't always necessitate.
You're saying your mum didn't do that to you?
No, it did.
Oh,
my mum
did,
wasn't trying
right.
to give me a good beating, for example,
Yeah.
when I did something wrong. But again, there has to be clear. It has to be clear why they're being told off or why they're being disciplined, so they're able to understand and identify what they've done wrong. There's a lot of cases you find that a parent might discipline a child based on their own anger, or a parent might out of anger, and then the child thinks, okay, mum is angry with me, and they don't understand that it's because they've done something wrong, because it's not clearly explained.
I just want to play a short clip of advice, really, from a practitioner's perspective. And if you just have a listen to it, and then we'll discuss it afterwards, inshallah.
One of the hardest jobs parents have is finding effective and positive ways to discipline their children. In the past, spanking and yelling were considered acceptable techniques, but this has become a very sensitive issue with parents, and we really need to find some alternatives.
With Isabel, I think I have learned more than I ever thought I would how there's not one cookie cutter way to discipline all children. I think I knew that beforehand, but I have a much greater appreciation for that now.
For Mary Beth, redirecting her child's attention is the way to go.
I try to get her to come up with ideas or alternatives to deal with what's going on. I think it helps her to stop and refocus herself, get herself thinking on a different track.
Parents are truly the role models for their children. It's important to show them the right way to act and react.
Anytime we do anything with our children, we are suggesting to them a way that they could behave themselves.
Opposites are fun to find. First,
so when we praise them, we're teaching them how to praise others.
Yeah, good job, Isabel.
When we listen to them, we're teaching them how to listen to others. When we meet their needs, we're teaching them how to meet other people's needs. When we spank them, we're teaching them how to be aggressive.
Okay, so that was just literally a short clip. So obviously I just wanted to play it because I believe it really reaffirms what you were just saying about being a role model.
Yeah.
Did you want to reflect on it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with almost everything that the lady said, apart from the end bit, I guess. I don't think that you can say, I think it's a bit of a blanket statement. If you say that when you're spanking them, then you're teaching them how to be aggressive. I think, like I said, as long as there's clear boundaries and it's explained and they understand that, by doing this it can result in that, then it's not teaching them how to be aggressive, it's teaching them that there's a consequence for certain behaviours which are, can result in getting a smack or getting a thing. And it's, again, it's there as a way to discipline, not as a way to, vent your anger, or that has to be clear, the line has to be drawn there. That it's not because I'm angry that I'm smacking you, because you've done something which is wrong. But again, like I said, in most cases, you don't have to resort to smacking. If you're skilled or good, not a good parent, if you're skilled at, you can find alternative ways of disciplining and, for example, punishing bad behaviour and stuff like that.
Yeah. And also, we forget the value of spending time with our children. And, I think in the early stages, if we do instill that relationship with them, where if they're spoken to and they're like, there are clear consequences, because I think parents are scared to say no to their children. I often see children getting spoilt in different ways. The manners are not being exercised, and you see this on another scale. Some madrasas that I've gone to, I'm disgusted at some of the behaviour that I see and some of the language that I hear coming out of the children's, mouths. And I think, ideally, if you are going to be someone or a parent who's going to be very articulated with your children, and sit down with them and say, I don't like this behaviour, or this behaviour is going to have a consequence as a result, then, you're going to see the benefits of that in the latter run. I spoke to somebody today who said, obviously I've been speaking to different people on the topic, and they said that they've seen that with their daughters, that later on the daughter said to, Dad, you was actually the one that taught me this. So, but yeah. Okay, so going back to how we discipline them, when it comes to the smacking, how do we do it according to Quran and Sunnah? In terms of, I know that there are different things like if hitting them in the face. 1 minute, we've just got another caller on the other line. Let's see. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
What's your name, caller, and where are you calling from?
My name is Brother Sadiq, and I am a teacher, and I'm calling from Great Bar, Birmingham.
Okay, welcome to the show. You wanted to comment on this topic?
Yeah, mashallah, it's a good topic actually, because I've been in teaching for 16 years.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, I've helped other ulama set up a few madrasas in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my own tutorial centre in Lozals, and one we're setting up now in the Handsworth Wood area.
Okay.
The one we set up in the Handsworth Wood, the only one that caters for 4 areas. we're setting up another one. Now, you're absolutely right, sister, to say that the language a lot of the kids use is a poor construction of English. When I say poor construction, it's a lot of swear words. The environment that they're brought up in their home is actually a good environment. I'm not going to blame parents, but unfortunately, when you go onto video social websites, and I'm not naming any of them because I don't want to get themselves into trouble.
Yeah.
People make these so-called something books, and they put up comments, and then people add comments, and then they use the most filthiest language. But so where does that come from? Then you've got to look at the industries that make videos and films and gaming. The kids, they will always tell you the best game isn't Certificate 6, it's Certificate 18. When you get a Certificate 18 game, it's got the violence, it's got the pornography, it's got everything that they want to see. That is then instilled into their mind. Now, we're not talking about teenagers now. We're talking about normal children who go to primary education. They've picked up on this. So when they've picked up on this, when they're going to a normal madrasa in the evening, they're expected to have etiquette. But it's hard for a teacher like myself to suddenly instill adab and akhlaq when this is what they're mainly seeing when their parents are not around.
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying, brother, is that parents need to stop being lazy parents.
Exactly. And you know what, sister?
Yeah.
Here is where the parents have to take the blame, because a lot of parents admit to buying them these type of games. They buy the something duty game. I don't want to say the name because I don't want the radio get into trouble.
Yeah.
They buy these games, they see the violence, it's amazing. One kid, he had memorized over 25 different guns. He was telling me every type of gun, what kind of bullet, and how it can do this to a person, because these games are based really on real scenarios that have happened around the world. And a lot of the games manufacturers have actually used ex-military soldiers to make the game even more realistic to what it is. And a lot of people tell you that if kids are being indoctrinated with this from a very young age, then it's going to be difficult for people like myself or even your radio program to suddenly put this switch off and make them into the perfect role model Muslim child.
Well, exactly, and I think it's good that teachers like yourself and madrasas speak up about this. So as parents, we wake up and we do what we need to do. We get to know our children, get to know what we're giving them with, because we see this later on, and we have to instill this goodness in the early stages.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you look at psychologists, they'll tell you that these cartoons, Tom and Jerry and things like that, they instill violence, funny violence. But the thing is, kids watch it, they see a cat beating a mouse, the mouse then throwing an iron bar on the cat, and because the cartoon's not real. But the problem is, children at a young age don't understand what's make-believe. I've had children who, at the age of 5, literally pick up things and hit their brothers and sisters because they've watched a cartoon and they picked it up and they don't understand what this actually can do.
Yeah.
So the people behind it, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing to instill an ideology in corrupting people from a very young age, make them into free thinkers. By making them free thinkers, they're always going to challenge you, sister. They're going to challenge me.
So as a teacher and as a parent, you're giving advice. This is your time to give an advice. What one advice would you want to give a parent to think about? One advice.
The most important advice is to remind them that the call of Allah is the most important thing. Now, I'm not saying that we have to establish everything in one go. We have to look at the fact that we're not even at the embryonic stage anymore of our iman. We have to develop the embryonic age stage, then we nurture ourselves into the infant, junior, and then we come back as adults. Because unfortunately, a lot of adults today are worse than their children. I've seen, astaghfirullah, sister, I've seen parents, they've had a disagreement with another parent because the son had a fight with them, and they've literally come in the masjid or the madrasa and had a big fight. What does that tell you how they're bringing up the child?
Exactly.
I had one parent tell his son, if anyone swears at your son, swear back with even more. Now, it's all come down to, what that...
Being the role models, isn't it? We have to go back to being the role models. Thank you so much for calling in, brother.
Inshallah.
Keep... Sorry?
I make dua that, that these sort of things, it's very important that you bring them up, because we wouldn't have all these issues in the youth if it wasn't for what we're our age group, if we explain things properly from a very young age, then alhamdulillah, it makes everything easier.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you know, this generation, the people are not the same as what our grandparents were.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Well, inshallah, inshallah, that's
We
the
make it
plan.
happen.
We'll address things like the effects of music, the effects of
Inshallah.
these games eventually. So keep tuning in, inshallah. And thank you so much for calling in. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, Abdul Wahid, you still with us?
Yeah.
MashaAllah, I think he made some very valid points as a teacher and someone who is in a madrasa. Did you want to add on anything that he said?
I just want to add that obviously there's, you know, the key thing when it comes to stuff like this is education. And that, you know, we're educating our children about, for example, what's right and what's wrong, about what Islam says about these things. So, because there's no way you're going to avoid them, because you're living in a country where it's, you know, prevalent in the schools, it's prevalent amongst all their friends. Even, for example, they go to their friend's house, they're going to play it, they're not going to have it at home. So you're not going to avoid these things, because it's part of the life that we live in the time that we live. So it's all about really educating them so they understand the dangers of them and how to use them properly. I think that would be key here. Not just give it to them without them understanding, you know, how to use it for good, not to use it for bad, and stuff like that. I don't think it's about, for example, just saying, well, you know, denying them everything that's available around them and they see it everywhere anyway, because that's going to also have a negative side effect. So I guess the key in these situations is education, teaching them, explaining to them, and also being there for them when they've got questions to ask and stuff like that, being involved in their activities.
Yeah, and being the role model. You know, you can't demand respect if your child constantly sees you being disrespectful to those around you. You know.
That's right, yeah, it's really just a simple formula.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in, Abdul Wahid, and always offering us the Islamic perspective. Yeah, thank you, and we'll speak to you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, yeah, we're coming up to the end of the show. I just wanted to end, you know, the show and round it up. You know, I'm really glad that the brother called in and did say what he did, because I guess that's really what I'm trying to get across on my shows, is that not only are you, you know, trying your best to raise your children, you're contending with other people's agendas. And, you know, as parents, you really have to almost, you know, prepare yourself for battle, because people are trying, you know, to program your children to behave in ways that if you don't get on top of it now, you're only going to see that later on. So, you know your children, and, you know, don't be a lazy parent, you know. Don't, you know, just sit back and watch your child being aggressive, having no manners, feeling helpless. You know, if you want help and support, go to your local madrasa. There are people out there, you know, go to your teachers, ask them what it is you can do to have that consistency at home. As always, if you want to contact me and send me any questions, and I thank anyone who has emailed me so far with their questions and their suggestions for the show, you can contact me on iamshalina@live.co.uk. It's Shalina, Shalina. Okay, so just rounding up very positively, as a parent, I believe that there is a chapter in the Quran that has a beautiful advice in terms of how, you know, we can be with our children, and that was the advice that Luqman alayhi salam gave to his son. And the first one, and as the caller said, is, you know, about the relationship with Allah. You know, Luqman alayhi salam said, worship Allah alone. This is just a brief overview. Obviously, inshallah, you can read over it with your children. And secondly, be respectful to your parents. You know, they must observe you being respectful with your parents, and hence they will be respectful with you. Number 3, be conscious of Allah wherever you are. You cannot hide your sins, and, you know, this is about ihsan. So when your children are not in your company, if you're nurturing and instilling in them, you know, their relationship with Allah, then, you know, it's going to help you, you know, it's going to help them, it's going to benefit them, and it's going to benefit you. The 4th thing was establish your prayer. The fifth was be active in the community, you know. How do they participate in the community? And like I said, if we look at madrasas and how the children are behaving, you know, that is how they are, you know, contributing to society. If they're swearing and that, then that's not a positive thing, for example. 6, command the good and forbid the evil. And this is about self-esteem. You know, we're often in a climate now where children or, you know, even women and sisters, you know, Islamophobia exists, and, you know, we're almost being nurtured to be quiet about who we are. And, you know, lastly, one of the things, and this isn't all of the points, these are just a brief overview, is to have manners. So, you know, let's go back to the Quran, let's go back to the Sunnah. It's about instilling these things in the relationships. The great story from this is this chapter not only develops looks at the child's relationship with God, it looks at the child's relationship with the parent, it looks at the child's relationship with society, and it also nurtures a child's relationship with their self. You know, so as parents, let's, you know, get back in check with, how we're raising our children, and, you know, and do the best for them, inshaAllah. And that means instilling in them, you know, how to be as the believers, you know, having that consciousness of believers, so that when we leave them to it, they'll be well. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next week, inshaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Attention, attention! This is Sadaqah Group Limited, and you are listening to 93.5 Unity FM, the heart of the city. Oh yeah!
Tired of looking at the same old carpet? Well, look no more. We at Heritage Carpets Limited have a 15,000 square feet warehouse. Over 700 rolls of carpets on display, all fitted for free. Heritage has the Midlands' largest collection of rugs, vinyls and laminate flooring. For your free quotation, measurement and fitting, call 0121 778 6444. Open 7 days a week with nationwide fitting services available. We'll beat all genuine written quotations. Visit us at Unit 2AB 47 Foreman's Road, Sparkhill, B11 3AR, or online at heritagecarpetsltd.co.uk. Remember, flooring is part of our heritage.
Muslim Aid is responding to the desperate crisis in Syria. Operating on the Lebanon and Jordan borders, Muslim Aid is providing medical care and food to people fleeing the fighting. Your help is needed now. Please donate by calling 020-7377-4200 or visit muslimaid.org. Thank you.
This is Sheikh Abu Hanifa. You are listening to Unity FM on 93.5.
Have you suffered injury from an accident in the last 3 years which wasn't your fault? Our team of specialist personal injury lawyers at Claim PI Solicitors can help you claim compensation. Whether you've had a slip or trip, an accident at work, or been involved in a road traffic accident, call 0121 366 0444 for honest and reliable legal advice. Remember, no fees, no deductions. You keep 100% of your compensation. There is no shame in making an honest claim. Call 0121 366 0444. Claim PI Solicitors. People who care. People you can trust.
Shahi Masala. We serve an exquisite buffet in Indian, Italian and Chinese cuisines. Specialities such as butter chicken, live cooking to traditional favourites such as shish kebabs and biryani. Our food is 100% halal and HMC approved. We also offer catering for weddings, parties and all other special occasions. Check out our full menu at shahimasala.com. Come and experience the true taste at 8 Burney Lane, Ward End, B8 2AH or call 0121 783 4121. Shahi Masala Buffet Restaurant.
Donate your Zakat and Sadaqah to Reed Foundation's Orphan Sponsorship Programme. £30 per month, that's only £1 per day, can provide an orphan child with food, clothing, medical care and a good education. Reed Foundation is looking after 8,000 orphans, but so many more are waiting to be sponsored. Make a world of difference for just £1 a day. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, I and the one who looks after an orphan will be like this in paradise, joining his middle and index fingers together. Sponsor an orphan today. Call 0121 326 7878 or visit reedfoundation.org.uk.
GT Appliances. We specialise in a large selection of cookers, fridge freezers, washing machines and built-in appliances. The largest independent domestic appliance retailer in Birmingham, we offer wholesale prices direct to the public. Visit 5 to 7 Bordley Green Road or call 773 0450 or Appliance World 716 to 718 Stratford Road, Spark Hill. Call 778 6225. Open 7 days a week with next day delivery. Log on to gtappliances.co.uk. Don't shop anywhere else until you've tried us first. Think appliances, think GT Appliances.
This is Sheikh Abu Hanifa. You are listening to Unity FM on 93.5, the heart of the city.